What's going on, guys? Kpine here and welcome back. And in this video I'll be featuring 3 Pokemon that have been impacted by the move changes in Season 19. Lanturn with Water Gun, which I'd be expecting most people to shift to because of the Spark nerf. It's still a very strong pick with Water Gun, but this fast move change just shifts Lanturn's role a little bit so you don't feel the impact of the Spark nerf. Then there's Trevenant and Whimsicott with Seed Bomb. Seed Bomb now deals a little bit more damage than it used to, which I personally believe is a great change because Seed Bomb wasn't the best move to begin with, so a little bit more of a nudge for grass types is a welcome sight, especially in a meta that's dominated by as many water types as this one is. And with that, let's take a look at these move changes and get right into the battles. Alright, getting to the first battle, we lead Lanturn into Shadow Dragonair. Terrible lead for the Lanturn. We are going to safe swap into the Trevenant with the hopes of getting it onto the Whimsicott later. My opponent is staying in to throw some energy, and this is fine. I can let this go. Body Slam's double resisted, Aqua Tail's resisted, we can hang on, and now they send in Skarmory. I'm only going to be able to make it to 1 Shadow Ball, so I will fire off the Shadow Ball right here. Get some chip damage onto the Skarmory, and now I'm going to bring in my Lanturn. Before, with Lanturn, you'd spark this down and you get a decent amount of energy, but now coming in with the Lanturn to Water Gun down, you're going to get more energy than the sparks would give you because those Water Guns are neutral. They will make it to 1 more move as a little bit of a parting gift, but Lanturn shrugs that off, fully Water Guns down the Skarmory, and they have their own Lanturn in the back. So this is a previous Legend team of mine from, 2 seasons ago at this point, Season 17. That was unfortunately hit by the move changes this season, as you'll see that Lanturn is running Spark. Spark now does less damage. But this is a prime example of not only Whimsicott's core breaking abilities, because all that's left is the Lanturn and the Dragonair, but that Seed Bomb buff. Once I landed that Seed Bomb on that Lanturn, it was now in Fairy Wind downrange. Pre-Seed Bomb buff, that Lanturn would not be in Fairy Wind downrange, and I would have to go for 2 Seed Bombs there. But Whimsicott, doing what it does best in core breaking lines, is now up against this Dragonair. I will give up both my shields in this situation, shielding up the Aqua Tail, and as I get to back-to-back C-Bombs, my opponent is faced with a decision here. Do they get their final shield? Do they not? If they do, I'm going to fire off my next C-Bomb right away. They don't. They let it go, and now back in comes that Lanturn. I fire off the C-Bomb to get their final shield just in case, and I'm just going to commit to the Fairy Wind down. I know that I do get to that last C-Bomb right there, but it's perfectly fine because that Lanturn's just on 1 HP, and I bring in my own Lanturn to snipe it with the Water Gun. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, we lead Lanturn into Annihilape. I do have 2 better answers for this in the back, so I am going to safe swap into my Trevenant and check for that flyer that Whimsicott does not want to see. They're staying in and firing off a Night Slash. I know I can survive this, so I will let it go. I decided to let it go just in case they do boost. And instead of baiting out that flyer, we bait out a Bastiodon, which, in my opinion, is arguably better than baiting out that flyer, since Whimsicott's energy will go basically nowhere into that Bastiodon. We are able to make 2 Shadow Balls before the Bastiodon smacks us down. Now we get to bring in Lanturn, and now this is another positive of having Water Gun on Lanturn instead of Spark. Previously, you wouldn't be able to farm down this Bastiodon, but now with Water Gun, you will be able to farm down this Bastiodon as I leave with over a Surf stored. A couple more Water Guns, and then the Thunderbolt into Annihilape. Unfortunately, that was bad timing. I thought I was only 1 Water Gun away from the Spark. I ended up being 2, so I do give them a full sneak of their counter. Now I safe swap into the Whimsicott, and in comes a Dewgong. So we have a decent amount of play here considering that Bastiodon is out of the way. This Dewgong does get to fire off an Icy Wind against us. Now I'm going to load up 4 more Fairy Winds and the Seed Bomb for good timing. And this is a debuffed Seed Bomb hitting that Dewgong, which does a respectable amount of damage. Again, another good example of that damage buff from the Seed Bomb. Puts it into, at this point, those are 2 debuffed Seed Bombs, and this Dewgong is now in Water Gun downrange for the Lanturn. My opponent recognizes that, so they swap out of the matchup with their Dewgong, bring back in their Annihilape. I will shield that Night Slash since I know I will outpace to the Surf by a single Water Gun. Surf will be enough to take out the Annihilape, And then all that's left is that Dugong, which does get Water Gunned down. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, we lead Lanturn into Shadow Gligar. Again, another positive change for this Lanturn matchup. Before with Spark, we were completely reliant on landing those Surfs since those Sparks were single resisted against the Gligar. But now with Water Gun, you're dealing super effective fast move damage and you still have the Surf. The pacing to the first dig and your first Surf is the same for Lanturn versus Gligar. So they will win CMP over that and dictate the first shield decision regardless. But honestly, even if they bait, those Water Guns still do so much damage that if they stay in, their Gligar is just starting to fall apart from all that fast move damage. They swap into a Feraligatr, and I feel a little bold. I'm like, I'm going to call they're on Hydro Cannon Crunch. They do end up being on that Crunch instead of the Ice Beam. So fortunate call, as we do take 2 shields from them in that mid game. They are able to get switch advantage, but that's okay because I know that up a shield, Trevenant does fine against Gligar with all this energy because we will be able to shield that Aerial Ace, and at that point a Seed Bomb would knock them out. But they end up hard swapping into their Gligar, and with all this stored energy, I can just overfarm before the next move, fire off a Surf to take him out, and then outpace the Feraligatr to a Thunderbolt, where now in the back they have a Typhlosion, a Shadow Typhlosion, another Pokemon with an upgrade in this season being given access to Thunder Punch, so it has a cheaper bait move instead of Solar Beam. But unfortunately for this Typhlosion, this Lanturn is on Water Gun as it shreds through it and takes it out with a Surf. GG's. Next battle, Lanturn into Serperior. Terrible lead. Serperior is kind of a core breaker for this team just because it does have that super effective Aerial Ace, but nonetheless, my 2 back Pokemon do have better matchups against it than the Lanturn, so we're going to save swap into the Trevenant and we bait out a Typhlosion. I go for the Seed Bomb bait here because they're guaranteed this shield. They will shield that Shadow Ball. I go for the potential Shadow Ball. I do go for the Seed Bomb in hopes that I make 2, but I don't. And now this is exactly what the Trevenant safe swap is for, to bait out that Flyer, Bastiodon, or that Fire type. That Lanturn can then take care of it. They will land 1 Blast Burn. Can't get the farm down in time as they will be able to land a 2nd Blast Burn. And those are 2 resisted moves, bringing Lanturn into the red. So Typhlosion hitting pretty hard right there. Now I save swap into the Whimsicott, and they're staying in to fire off some energy. I will let the first Aerial Ace go because I know I can survive it. And I'm just hoping it's something that doesn't have fast move pressure in the back at this point. And my opponent ends up making a beautiful catch of the Moonblast onto the Feraligatr here. Little bit of a waste of energy as it would be more efficient to have gone for the double Seed Bomb. Even though Moonblast does do more than Seed Bomb, it's going to take 2 moves to take out the Feraligatr regardless, so that was a very nice catch by them. I will give up my first of 2 shields to this Feraligatr's Hydro Cannon, and now I'm going to see if I can get the Fairy Wind down. I can't just because those Shadow Claws are doing too much damage, so we'll fire off a Seed Bomb. You know, at this point, I'm thinking that I'm in a good spot here, that I have all this energy stored on my Lanturn. I will be able to outpace them to this Moonblast before they reach their next Aerial Ace if my counting's correct. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm in a pretty good spot, but my counting was off as they reached the Aerial Ace. 1 Vine Whip before I reached the Moonblast. And now at this point, this game is over. Even though I have all this energy stored on the Lanturn, Serperior does wall Lanturn's energy as it just shrugs off that Thunderbolt and gets the Vine Whip down. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, we lead Lanturn into opposing Lanturn. We're gonna have to see if this one is on Spark or Water Gun. We save swap into our Trevenant because we do have the 2 better answers in the back, and it seems like they're on Spark. Basically, every single Lanturn I've come across so far on this day is running Spark. I don't know if that's because they're not sure of the move change yet, the Spark nerf, or if they're trying to test it out to see if running Spark is still worth it. But I do think Water Gun is now the preferred moveset for Lanturn. Trevenant save swap does bait out the Skarmory. Unfortunately, we were able to get a shield from them, which is fantastic with that Shadow Ball. And because we got that shield, we unfortunately won't be able to Water Gun down in time before they reach another move. So I'm going to get close to 2 Surfs, fire off one of them to take out the Skarmory. And now if it's their own, if they come back in with their own Lanturn, I will fire off a Thunderbolt and then swap into my Whimsicott. But they don't, they come in with an Annihilape, and now I'm gonna load up to the Thunderbolt and bait with the Surf. If the Surf lands, that will just about put it into Fairy Wind plus Seed Bomb range. And if they came with the Lanturn, I was gonna fire off the Thunderbolt, because if that Thunderbolt lands, that would also just about put it into Seed Bomb range. But with an Annihilape in the back and Lanturn up against the Whimsicott, Whimsicott seems primed to sweep this game, as my opponent is core broken with the Pokemon that they have remaining. And now this Lanturn, a little bit of a surprise. They are on Thunderbolt, Thunder instead of Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt does have a little bit better DPE, damage per energy, but Thunderbolt has better pacing, which is why it's preferred over Thunder. As I do lose the CMP tie to the Annihilape, but just in case my counting was off and they were at an Ice Punch, I decide to shield. It is only the Night Slash, as we do get to land the Moonblast and take that one. GG's to my opponent. Next battle, we lead Lanturn into another shiny Shadow Gligar. So again, positive matchup for us, or better matchup for us, since we are on Water Gun now instead of Spark. They do get to that dig as soon as we reach the Surf. We give up our shield, see if they're going to bait or full send it. They bait. So now I'm going to get less farm on my Lanturn before I fire off the Surf. They full sent the dig, I would have been able to overfarm more. But I wasn't able to. I load on energy. I swap into my Trevenant to try and catch a potential dig. So I was like, surely they're going to throw this dig before I would reach my second Surf. But they don't. They overfarm. And now I'm essentially forced to throw away my entire Trevenant to these Aerial Aces. So down goes Trevenant, and I'm gonna wait out my clock for the switch timer. Bring back in my Lanturn. I do get the Spark down and leave with Surf. Now we're gonna see what they bring in. They have an Annihilape. Okay, so this is very doable if Annihilape is their best answer to a Water Gun Lanturn. So I do bait with the Surf. I do get to the Surf. I do get the Surf bait called correctly, and now I fire off the Thunderbolt. Fortunately on the CMP tie, a little bit of bad timing. This move will not KO, so they would have been able to get that move off regardless, but giving them the potential for a sneak isn't great. And now they bring in their own Spark Lanturn. Again, the Spark Lanturns are, I don't think I've seen, I faced a lot of Lanturns and not a single one of them was on Water Gun, which I think will shift soon. But nonetheless, Whimsicott will easily be able to take this match, as I get to the C-Bomb to take out the Lanturn, but they concede. GG's. Next battle, we lead Lanturn into Annihilape. Two better answers for this in the back. We're going to swap into the Trevenant, see if this one stays in and fires off the Night Slash like the last one did, which they do. So again, we're just going to let this go. We don't want to give up a shield to our Trevenant yet, and they bring in a Skarmory. So we are able to bait out the Skarmory. I'm loading up, make it to Shadow Ball. I'm not going to be able to make a second Shadow Ball, so I will settle for the Shadow Ball plus Seed Bomb combination. This move is double resisted against the Skarmory, so they know that they can just let it go, which they do. Skarmory hangs on, and my Lanturn is now going to come in, and it's only going to get minimal farm, but again, it's going to be more farm than it would if it was on Spark. We do land the Brave Bird. We get the Water Gun down. Now we get to see what they're going to come in with. It's going to be that Annihilape again, or their third. It is that Annihilape. Load up on energy. I make it to the Thunderbolt before they reach the potential Shadow Ball, and now I'm going to bait with the Surf again. This Annihilape is just about in Surf range, so I was expecting them to give up a shield there. And now here, they're at the back-to-back Night Slashes. So, and this was a CMP tie, so I can shield their move just in case it is the Shadow Ball. I will live a Night Slash at this range, but I shield that just in case it is the Shadow Ball, so I can get off my Surf. It goes down, and what do you know? It's another Lanturn in the back that's on Spark. Once the Trevenant baits out the hard counter, Whimsicott is absolutely feasting on these Lanturns and team compositions, as my opponent concedes. GG's. Next battle, Lanturn into Charjabug. Previously with Spark, this was a matchup that Charjabug won in the zeros, but with Water Gun, we're going to have to see how that changes its matchup. They will outpace us to the first X-Scissor, before we reach our Surf. Now we're going to return fire with a Surf of our own. If my opponent wants to give up a shield or not. Surf does land, they do not want to. And it looks like that Lanturn will be able to win the zero shield scenario against Charjabug with Water Gun. So a little bit of an upgrade to a previously negative matchup. We're going to see if my opponent wants to play for switch, and they do. So I hard swap into my Trevenant, and that should have been a 0-turn switch, so I should have gotten a Shadow Claw through right there. But for some reason, it ended up being a 1-turn switch, and I don't get that Shadow Claw through. And that damage could be big in this end game, but we're going to have to see how it plays out. In comes Gligar. I'm only going to make one move, so I do full send the Shadow Ball, and I end up getting both shields from them. And now, this is, depending on what they have in the back, this is going to be a very tough end game for me, as I will have to give up both of my shields to this Gligar here. My switch clock's not up quite yet to try and make a catch of the Aerial Ace, so I will be forced to give up my second shield. And now I'm going to overfarm and land this Moonblast on the CMP tie to their next Aerial Ace. This isn't quite Seed Bomb range, so I do have to go for the Moonblast. And let's see what they have in the back. They have an Annihilape, and this matchup is winnable. Loading up on energy, they swap out, going to the Charjabug. I swap out to try and make the catch of their move. Very nice patience by them and overfarm. But it unfortunately looks like that one Shadow Claw we missed out on was the difference in this match, as the Charjabug is able to hang on and take out my Whimsicott. GG's, really well played by my opponent. Next battle, Lanturn into Skarmory. Fantastic lead. They safe swap into that Quagsire. We have a beautiful answer for it in the Whimsicott. We're going to fire off this Grass Knot right away. You may be thinking, you know, maybe I want to let the Quagsire get a Stone Edge's worth of chip first so the Skarmory gets less farm. And, you know, you could be correct, but with basically a full health Whimsicott, and if this Skarmory tries to farm down all the way, I will reach 2 Moonblasts. And Moonblast from Whimsicott does do a lot, even when resisted against a Pokemon like Skarmory. And as you'll see, I get to 2 Moonblasts, and this will put the Skarmory deep into the red. We do get the attack fall, which is a little fortunate. Now they have a Shadow Gligar in the back, and again, Water Gun. We don't even need to throw a move at this point. We can just shield whatever they have. They could double bait us with Aerial Ace, and they still won't reach that dig. So we're just going to commit to the fast move down here. No need to throw anything at this point, and my opponent realizes it, so they concede. GG's. Next battle, we lead Lanturn into Wigglytuff. And if this is the Wigglytuff team that has Bastiodon and Shadow Victory Bell behind it, I need to save my Water Gun Lanturn. Very often that is the team that's behind a Wigglytuff lead. So once I get chip onto this Wigglytuff, I will swap into my Trevenant to potentially bait out that Bastiodon, as I'm not expecting the Shadow Victory Bell to swap into the Trevenant. So the first Surf does get the shield, second Surf coming through. This one ends up getting a second shield, but now the Wigglytuff is in a range where Seed Bomb will KO. Previous Seed Bomb buff, this Seed Bomb would not KO, but with that little bit of extra damage, that Seed Bomb is just enough to take out the Wigglytuff, and in comes Bastiodon. And now this is perfect, because we have the Bastiodon baited out, keep it away from the Whimsicott. Our Lanturn is healthy enough to take care of that Bastiodon once the Trevenant goes down. And then if it is that Shadow Victory Bell, Whimsicott should be able to close it out. Not able to reach another Shadow Ball, so we do settle for the Seed Bomb. Now I'm going to wait out my clock to make sure my switch timer is up, just in case they do try and snipe my Lanturn with that Shadow Vic. They go for the Stone Edge. We're going to commit the shield, and it is that Shadow Vic in the back. So we're going to fire off this Moonblast. Seed Bomb is double resisted. Moonblast is going to be single resisted against the Shadow Victory Bell. As it lands, does massive damage. And they're going to be firing up. They built up to 12, so this is only an Acid Spray. We should be able to survive it and make the Seed Bomb, right? Wrong. That's a double super effective Acid Spray. I've never seen an Acid Spray do that much damage in my entire life. Fortunately, we are able to get the Water Gun down just in time and make it to the Surf to take out the Bastiodon. That was a lot closer. That was a lot closer of a match than I thought it was going to be. GG's to my opponent. Final thoughts on these move changes. Lanturn is still here to stay. Lanturn with Water Gun is very strong. Not as strong as the pre-Spark Nerf variant, but it kinda shifts its role a little bit by having a better matchup against Gligar and Bastiodon. But its downsides are now, while it still has a good matchup against Flyers, it's not as dominant as it used to be, and it now gets completely destroyed by Altaria. The matchup just isn't even close anymore. And I do believe that most of those people running Spark Lanturn today will eventually shift on over to Water Gun. As for Trevenant, while the Seed Bomb buff is nice, I don't think it's enough to bring it back to meta relevancy. The pacing of 665 gives it just a little too much of a drawback compared to the rest of the meta. As for Whimsicott, with its Grass move, you were given the choice of Grass Knot, which hit really hard but suffered the same fate of 665 pacing, or Seed Bomb, which had the 555 pacing but hit like a wet noodle. So now this buff to Seed Bomb is a very welcome one for Whimsy and is a pretty big improvement. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Love to hear what you have to say. And with that, I'll catch you in the next one.